She stood on that stage with grace and burned him down with nothing but the truth, not with rage, not with revenge, just facts. In a room full of billionaires, shareholders, and flashing cameras, he never saw it coming. And neither will you. Welcome back to Mr. Charles Stories, where every tale reminds you that love without loyalty is dangerous, and silence isn't always weakness. Today's story is a storm dressed in elegance. What would you do if your partner built their empire on your sacrifice, then cheated like you were disposable? Would you walk away quietly, or would you wait for the perfect moment, where every word hits harder than betrayal ever did? Stay with me, because what Alana did at that gala wasn't just iconic, it was surgical. If you've ever given your all to someone who forgot your worth, this story will feel like justice. The day Cole Riston walked into her life, he was holding blueprints, not bank accounts. Back then, his suit didn't fit right. His shoes had scuff marks. But his eyes burned with ambition. Not the kind that wanted to impress the world, just the kind that needed to build something that mattered. Alana Norrin saw that fire and never looked away. Their first apartment was barely livable. Brooklyn was loud, the radiator clanked like it had a grudge, and the only art on their walls was a corkboard pinned with quotes, floor plans, and scraps of napkin doodles. Above everything, one line was scribbled in marker: build something that matters. They clung to that line. Cole was chasing his first real project, a multi-unit renovation near Bedford. The bank wanted more collateral. His partner had backed out. His voice cracked when he told Alana, "If I don't get that money by Friday, the deal dies." She didn't flinch. She didn't ask him to explain what he'd already laid out a dozen times. She walked to their shared savings envelope hidden behind the spice rack. The money was meant for their postponed honeymoon. She handed it to him. "I trust you," she said. "No conditions, no guilt." That night, they ate instant noodles on the floor. His hand stayed wrapped around hers longer than usual. He kept whispering, "I won't forget this." And for a while, he didn't. For a while, Cole came home with coffee stains and late-night thank you kisses. He worked 12-hour days but still found time to paint Alana's toes on Sundays. Their love was soft in the morning and strong at night. 2 years later, the Bedford deal became 3 properties. The profits turned into leverage. The leverage turned into expansion. And suddenly, Cole Riston wasn't hustling anymore. He was hiring. Suits fit better. Cars changed from rideshare to private black cars. Their apartment was swapped for a glass-walled penthouse in Manhattan. Alana kept the corkboard. She added one more word to the top. We built something that mattered. But slowly, things stopped mattering to him. He was homeless. When he was tired or distracted. Calls always rang at dinner. Alana tried not to interrupt. She learned to eat alone, reheating his plate twice before giving up. He no longer painted her toes on Sundays. One evening, she waited on the balcony with a bottle of wine. She'd booked them a trip, something quiet upstate. No press, no meetings, just them. Cole came home 2 hours late and barely kissed her cheek. "I can't make the weekend," he muttered. "Bored dinner. You know how it is." She didn't, but she nodded. Later that night, she sat at her vanity, watching her reflection. The woman staring back wore a gold necklace he bought her 3 anniversaries ago. She smiled the same, but there was something missing behind her eyes. She remembered that first cramped apartment. She remembered his hands when they reached for her instead of his phone. The next morning, she found the necklace in her drawer and took it off. She left it there. Cole didn't notice. He did, however, notice when she showed up at the investor brunch he forgot to invite her to. She arrived wearing the same simple dress from one of his early property openings. It wasn't elegant, but it held history. People whispered. Some complimented her on being so grounded. Cole leaned in that night and whispered, "You're still my center, you know." Alana smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. She wasn't his center. She was his reminder. And reminders can fade when ambition gets too loud. That fall, Alana started volunteering at a young women's housing shelter. She used her interior design degree, the one she shelved for Cole's dream, to help redesign the space with second-hand materials. When she told him, he replied, "That's cute, cute." That was the moment she realized he no longer saw her as an equal, maybe not even as a partner. She was a +1, a placeholder, a symbol of stability he could put on display when needed. But not the woman he made love to on Blueprints. Not the woman who fed him when his account hit zero. Not the woman who gave him her honeymoon savings. And certainly not the woman he came home to with urgency. Still, she held on, not because she was weak, but because she wanted to be sure. Sometimes, when you're drowning slowly, you think the shore will show up if you just wait. But by winter, Cole had hired a new executive secretary. Her name was Dahlia Creed, and everything began to shift. That winter, the apartment felt colder even with the heat on. Cole had begun sleeping in later on weekends. He stopped making breakfast altogether, something he used to do just to make her smile. Alana still brewed his favorite coffee, not because he asked, but because she didn't want to believe they'd become strangers. The new secretary's name was barely mentioned at first, Dahlia Creed. "She's sharp," Cole said one night over dinner. "Gets things done faster than my last two combined." Alana nodded. "You like her?" "I like competent people," he replied without looking up from his tablet. That was enough to make her take a mental note, not suspicion, just awareness. The first time she saw Dahlia in person was at the company's holiday gala. It was held at the new Riston Towers property downtown, all glass, chrome, and polished smiles. Alana arrived fashionably late, not to make a statement, but because she knew by now her presence didn't affect Cole's schedule. She walked in wearing an emerald gown, nothing loud, but it hugged her frame with dignity. As she entered, a few board members nodded, half sincere and half curious. Then she saw her, Dahlia, sleek bun, ruby red lips, a dress a little too tight for a work event, a little too perfect for coincidence. She was standing close, too close, to Cole, whispering something, laughing lightly. When Dahlia noticed Alana, she turned with a practiced smile. "Mrs. Riston," she said. Her voice was clear, polite, and laced with something Alana couldn't name. "You look stunning." "Thank you," Alana replied calmly. Dahlia excused herself. Cole came over moments later, arm half raised like he'd forgotten whether or not he should hug his own wife. "You came," he said. "You invited me." "Right, I did." He didn't say she looked beautiful. He didn't kiss her cheek. He asked if she wanted wine, then disappeared for 20 minutes after handing her a glass. Alana stood alone most of the night, watched people circle Cole, watched Dahlia hand him a new phone, watched them laugh at things she couldn't hear. On the ride home, she said nothing. Neither did he. That night, she didn't wait for him to fall asleep. She turned to face the other way and closed her eyes. Not to sleep, but to shut out the echo of her own silence. The next few weeks blurred. Cole was either on calls, in meetings, or traveling. Alana stopped asking, not out of resignation, but because her energy deserved better than one-word replies. Then came the moment she couldn't ignore. It was a Tuesday, past midnight. Cole's phone buzzed on the nightstand. Alana didn't touch it. She just glanced. "D. Message. I can't stop thinking about last night. You left the window open." She froze, not in panic, not in anger, just in confirmation. She walked into the bathroom, closed the door gently, and sat on the edge of the tub. The tiled floor felt cold beneath her feet. She didn't cry. Instead, she remembered the first time Cole had sent her a message like that. Years ago, after a terrible pitch meeting, he'd written, "Didn't close the deal. But I love coming home to you. Leave the window open." And now that same phrase belonged to someone else. The next morning, over breakfast, she asked, without lifting her gaze from her coffee, "Who's D?" Cole blinked. "What?" She looked up. "You got a message last night." "From someone called D." He hesitated. Too long. "Oh, Dahlia. She's sending flight details for the Boston trip next week." Alana took a sip. Strange time to send logistics. She works late. Time zones. Alana nodded slowly. That day, she didn't call her friends. She didn't pack a bag. She didn't even scream. Instead, she booked a quiet appointment with a private investigator, and then she waited. In that waiting, something inside her began to shift. She stopped wearing the jewelry he gave her. She started volunteering more, teaching design skills to young women from transitional housing programs, girls with grit and untold stories. One afternoon, she asked them to redesign a tiny apartment on paper using limited materials. One of the girls, maybe 19, said, "I'd put the bed by the window, so I'd wake up to the light." Alana smiled. "That's beautiful. Where would you put yours?" the girl asked. Alana thought for a moment. "Somewhere I could breathe," she said quietly. Later that week, Cole texted her a photo from his trip. A new building facade. "You'd like this stone. Reminds me of that Paris design you once showed me." She replied, "Nice." She didn't say she remembered Paris. She didn't say she remembered the night he promised her she'd always be his muse. The private investigator returned with everything she needed. Photos, receipts, hotel check-ins. One of Dahlia's earrings left in Cole's Tesla, a brand Alana didn't wear. A security cam still frame of Cole helping Dahlia out of a car, his hand too familiar on her waist. Alana closed the folder. Calmly. She didn't need to see more. She didn't even feel sick. What she felt was ready. The company's investor gala was 2 weeks away. Cole had already told her he'd be making his biggest announcement yet. Expanding into international markets, new mergers, the whole thing. He said, "You should be there. It'll mean a lot." Alana smiled. She said, "Of course. Wouldn't miss it." The week leading up to the gala passed in sharp stillness. Cole was unusually pleasant. He left notes on the kitchen counter again, ordered her favorite Thai takeout one night, even held her hand while watching a finance documentary she didn't care for. It wasn't affection, it was strategy. Alana didn't flinch. She played the role. She let him talk about board members and guest lists, nodding in all the right places. But her eyes had learned something new, how to stop hoping. Hope had kept her silent for too long. On the morning of the event, she laid out a dress, black silk, fitted, elegant without effort, not new. She'd worn it once 5 years ago, to his first ribbon-to-cutting ceremony. The day his mother had whispered in her ear, "He'll go far. Stay close so you're not left behind." Back then, she smiled. That day, she didn't. She didn't need to stay close anymore. She was already ahead, just quiet about it. She arrived at the gala on her own. No driver, no dramatic entrance, just poise. The Riston Group had booked out the top floor of the newest tower, a glittering open-air ballroom with skyline views. Guests mingled under chandeliers shaped like frozen water. Waiters carried gold-rimmed flutes of champagne. Everywhere Alana looked, people were congratulating each other for things she helped Cole build. She moved through the crowd like a ghost who remembered how alive she once was here. Cole spotted her from across the room and lit up with relief. He walked toward her, brushing his jacket nervously. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you," she replied. Before he could speak more, Dahlia appeared behind him. "Mr. Riston, the presentation is ready in the media room. Just need you to sign off on the last cue card." Her tone was smooth, professional. Her eyes never left Alana's. Alana offered a faint smile. Cole shifted awkwardly. "I'll be right back," he said. "I'll be here," Alana said softly. She wasn't. By the time Cole returned, she'd stepped out onto the balcony. She needed air. The city looked different from this height, almost like it didn't matter who owned what. She took out her phone and opened her notes app. The speech was there. She hadn't rehearsed it aloud. She didn't need to. It wasn't for performance. It was for clarity. Inside, the host tapped the microphone and welcomed everyone. "Tonight, we celebrate not just numbers, but vision. And no one embodies that vision more than Cole Riston." Polite applause filled the air. Cole took the stage. He spoke with confidence about growth, expansion, leadership. Every line was polished. Every pause was purposeful. Alana stood in the wings, watching him talk about ethics and teamwork, like he hadn't betrayed both. Then the host returned, smiling brightly. And now, we'd like to invite the woman behind the man, the co-founder of the Riston Norin Foundation, and someone who believed in this dream long before it was a reality. Alana Riston. There was a murmur of surprise. Some people hadn't seen her in years. Alana walked on stage, her heels clicking lightly, her shoulders back. Cole looked at her with something between pride and fear. She took the microphone, smiled at the crowd, then let her expression shift into stillness. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight to support the dream Cole and I built together." She paused. Eyes scanned the crowd. "Years ago, I lent Cole half of our savings to buy his first building. We were eating instant noodles in a one-bedroom apartment back then. And every night, we'd say the same thing. Build something that matters." She turned slightly toward Cole. "I believed in that." Then her voice changed, just slightly. "And I was proud to be his wife. Until I realized I was the only one holding that vow." The room hushed. Alana took a breath, calm and deliberate. "To the board members, thank you for trusting Cole with your investments. I hope you also trust that your CEO's judgment includes sleeping with his secretary while telling his wife he was in Tokyo." Gasps broke through the silence. Someone dropped their glass. Cameras clicked. Cole froze, mouth half open. Alana continued. "And to Dahlia," she said, scanning the crowd until her gaze landed on her. "You left your necklace in our bedroom. Next time, pick one that doesn't snap so easily." Silence turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into panic. Alana smiled gently. "No need to worry. I won't be pressing charges. I won't be filing lawsuits. I won't even raise my voice." She stepped back from the mic. "I've already left." The lights overhead didn't flicker. The floor didn't shake. But something in that room shifted forever. She walked off the stage, slowly, calmly, her heels tapping like punctuation marks to a sentence she should have said long ago. Outside, the city didn't know what had just happened. Cars still passed. Horns still blared. Alana got into a cab. The driver asked, "Home?" She looked out the window. "No," she said. "Not tonight." She pulled her phone from her clutch and opened a draft email titled, "Rebrand Plan." Phase 1. It was her own real estate company. It had her name on it. No shadows, no second seats, just her. By morning, she was trending. Not because she screamed, but because she told the truth without flinching. If you've ever poured your heart into someone only to watch them forget your worth, if you've ever had to stay silent while someone else took credit for what you helped build, then Alana's strength is your reminder. Quiet doesn't mean weak, and leaving doesn't mean losing. Drop a comment if you've ever walked away with dignity. Like this video if Alana's story hit you right where it needed to. And don't forget to subscribe, because at Mr. Charles Stories, we tell the truth behind the picture perfect. The morning after the gala, headlines exploded. Some led with shock. Others called it bravery. A few called it brand suicide. But no one could deny what had happened. CEO exposed by wife during live gala. Riston Empire shaken by affair. Bombshell Alana Riston breaks her silence and the internet. Cole's publicist issued a bland statement by noon. The Riston Group remains focused on growth and integrity. It didn't help. Footage from the event, Alana's calm voice, the word secretary, the part about Tokyo, was clipped, shared, stitched and captioned with phrases like queen behavior, and she said it with her chest. Investors started calling. Board members scheduled emergency calls. Dahlia Creed's LinkedIn page disappeared overnight. But none of that touched Alana. She didn't read the comments. She didn't respond to the flood of texts. She didn't answer unknown calls. She moved quietly, like she always had. Except this time, she wasn't following anyone. She was leading herself out. Cole, on the other hand, was spiraling behind glass. He sat in his home office, The city spread out behind him like a kingdom he no longer controlled. The silence in the penthouse was unfamiliar, heavy. His assistant buzzed in. "Sir, Mr. Langley from Whitmore Capital is on line 2. He says it's urgent. Tell him I'll call back." "Sir, he said he's pulling his investment." Cole closed his eyes. Whitmore Capital was a cornerstone partner. He pulled out his phone and scrolled through the texts. "Alana, 3 days ago. Don't worry, I won't embarrass you further." She hadn't blocked him, but she hadn't responded since. He stared at her contact photo, one he hadn't updated in years. It was from a picnic. She was laughing, hair wind-blown, no makeup, holding a sandwich in one hand and a blueprint in the other. Back when she was his favorite person, not his PR problem. He tried calling. Straight to voicemail. He emailed. No reply. He showed up at her old design studio. The receptionist told him, "She doesn't work from here anymore." "She doesn't?" He repeated, stunned. "No. She runs her own agency now, Risewell Interiors. Launched last quarter." Cole blinked. "She what?" The receptionist nodded politely. "She's been busy. Booked months in advance." Cole left the studio in a haze. Alana had already moved on. Not emotionally, he couldn't be sure, but structurally, logistically, strategically. She had planned her exit, planted seeds, and built a new garden while he was too busy watering someone else. Meanwhile, Alana worked late nights in a modest but sunlit studio in Midtown. Hardwood floors, tall windows, plants in the corner. No skyline views, but full peace. Her team was small. Women who were overlooked at other firms. A graduate from Harlem who sketched entire neighborhoods in her notebook. A single mother who returned to design school after 10 years out of work. Alana gave them space. She gave them belief. She gave them what Cole used to give her. "Don't design for approval," she told them during one team lunch. "Design for function, for clarity, and for women like us, who are building without applause." One of them asked, "Aren't you scared he'll come after you?" Alana smiled gently. "He's already lost the only thing that mattered. There's nothing left for him to take." That week, a large investor quietly reached out to Risewell. "I watched your speech," the woman said. "We've been looking for someone who sees design as more than aesthetic. Let's talk." Alana took the meeting, not to spike her success in Cole's face, but to honor the woman who sacrificed for someone else's dream too long. When she walked out of the deal, signed and sealed, she didn't text Cole. She didn't need to. Her name would appear in the press release next to the client his firm had been courting for 6 months. Cole read it in silence from his phone, alone in the conference room. Risewell Interiors signs exclusive partnership with Elmstone Global. His phone buzzed. It was Dahlia. "Dahlia, are we okay?" He didn't answer, because deep down he knew he was never going to be okay again. Not until he understood what it truly meant to be loved by someone who stayed, and lost her because he didn't notice when she stopped. Cole sat in his penthouse kitchen, untouched coffee turning cold beside him. For the first time in years, he didn't have a full calendar. The meetings had been postponed. The board was restructuring internal conversations. Translation: they were deciding if he was still the face they wanted to represent them. And Alana. She had vanished from his orbit like she'd never belonged to it. He tapped his fingers on the counter, then opened his gallery. He scrolled past photos of buildings, events, project sites, until he found the old ones. The ones he hadn't looked at since things got too busy. One of Alana holding up the signed deed for his first property. Her eyes lit up like they both had just won the world. He blinked hard, shutting the phone. A knock sounded at the door. His assistant stood there, holding a manila envelope. This was delivered by courier. No sender listed. Cole took it, opened it slowly. Inside were 2 things. 1, a copy of the deed to the very first building they bought, now under a new owner's name. She had quietly sold it, the place where everything began. Gone. 2, a single sticky note attached. It read, "Your foundation meant something to me, but it doesn't define me anymore." That building had been symbolic, more than money, more than property. It was love, history, their beginning. And she let it go. Not to hurt him, but because it no longer belonged to her either. Meanwhile, Alana sat in a quiet cafe downtown. She wore no rings, no designer coat, just jeans, a sweater, and a calm that felt earned. Across from her sat a new client, older woman, widow, looking to downsize. "I've followed your work for a while," the woman said. "But what made me hire you wasn't your portfolio. It was how you carried yourself during that gala." Alana smiled, stirring her tea. "I was just tired of being quiet." "That's what people saw," the woman said. "Not revenge. Just power." Alana nodded. "I don't want to build empires," she said. "I just want to build places that feel safe." The woman blinked, touched. "That's exactly what I need." That night, Alana walked home. It was cold, but peaceful. As she stepped inside her apartment, the lights flickered on to soft warmth. Candles glowed. Music played faintly from the kitchen radio. No one waited for her. And she liked it that way. She set her keys down and picked up the new issue of a design magazine. Her name was on the cover. Not Coles, not Mrs. Riston, just Alana Norrin. She sat by the window with a blanket, flipping through the pages until she landed on the feature spread. A quote printed beneath her photo read, "You don't need to shout to be heard. Sometimes," Truth said once, calmly, "is enough to change everything." She smiled to herself. Across town, Cole sat in his office, staring at his phone again. He typed a message. "Cole, Alana, I don't know what to say, but I miss you. I miss us." He hovered over send, then deleted it. He knew now. Some people leave before they walk out the door. And some women don't return, not because they hate you, but because they finally love themselves more. He closed his eyes. The city kept moving. Alana's light stayed on all night. And Cole's world dimmed. Slowly, without her in it. Dahlia Creed had never been publicly humiliated before. Not by a man, not by a woman, and certainly not in front of cameras, CEOs, and half the investment world. She used to be the one who always had the answer, the gatekeeper to Cole Riston. She knew his calendar better than he did. She managed press, arranged private dinners, and kept his life pristine and on schedule, even when Alana hadn't known where he was. And then, in one elegant 5-minute speech, Alana ended all of that. Dahlia didn't just lose her leverage, she lost her identity. The next morning, her name was trending, not in praise, but in hashtags, like hashtag office mistress and hashtag necklace left behind. The company's HR director called with forced professionalism. "There's internal pressure to create distance," she said. Dahlia snapped. "I didn't violate any policy." "You did violate optics," the woman replied. "You'll be placed on immediate leave. We'll follow up with options by the end of the week." Options. She knew what that meant. By Friday, her company email was disabled. Her building pass stopped working. Her phone no longer buzzed with reminders or orders. She packed her things in silence. No farewell lunch. No "we'll miss you." Just cold air and echoing footsteps as she left the tower that once felt like hers. And Cole, he hadn't spoken to her since that night. No calls, no damage control, not even a cheap apology. Dahlia sat in her West Village apartment that weekend with a bottle of red wine and a jobless inbox. She scrolled through gossip headlines and froze when she saw it. Alana Norrin launches design firm, bags Elmstone global contract days after gala bombshell. A rival, now a threat. She slammed her laptop shut. This wasn't just a scandal anymore. It was legacy theft. Cole sat on the edge of his bed, tie undone, jacket on the floor, eyes distant. The penthouse hadn't felt like home in months, but now it felt sterile, dead. No scent of Alana's essential oils, no soft jazz humming from her corner speaker, no corkboard of ideas taped beside his espresso machine. Just emptiness. And him. He poured himself a glass of whiskey, walked to the balcony, and looked out over the city he once thought he ruled. All his buildings, all his awards, all his press interviews and podcasts, but no one to come home to. No hand reaching for his when the noise stopped. He tapped his phone again, staring at the message thread with Alana. Still nothing. At the Risewell studio, Alana was thriving, not loudly, not to prove anything, but because she finally had space to build. Her office was small but warm. White walls, gold accents, a standing mirror, a coffee bar stocked with herbal teas and dark roast blends. Each team member had a desk and a vision board. Every Friday, they did vision checks. No pressure, just reflections. That day, Yvette, the design assistant, brought over 2 iced coffees and placed one gently by Alana's keyboard. "You've been quiet all morning," she said. Deep in design mode, Alana looked up and smiled. Half design, half memory. Something bad? No, just bittersweet. Yvette hesitated, then asked, "Was it hard, walking away from someone that big?" Alana thought for a long moment. "The hardest part wasn't walking away from him," she said. "It was walking away from the version of me that kept waiting for him to change." Yvette nodded, eyes glistening. "You make us feel brave," she said softly. Alana reached across and squeezed her hand. "You already are." Later that evening, Alana met with Stanton Equity, the potential partner for the mixed-use design contract. The lead investor was a woman named Karina Moss, early 50s, sharp, with a calm voice and a folder full of numbers. "Your firm's work with transitional housing and multi-use planning impressed us," Karina said. "But what sealed the deal was your gala speech." Alana didn't flinch. "I wasn't trying to impress. That's what made it powerful." Karina leaned forward. "There's more money in quiet revolution than loud ambition, Ms. Norrin. I think you understand that better than most." Alana took a breath. "Send the terms. I'll review by Monday." Karina smiled. "You'll find they favor builders like you." As she left the meeting, Alana stood on the steps outside, watching the streetlights flicker on. She had a new rule, no looking back. But tonight, she allowed herself 5 seconds. She thought about the first deal she and Cole closed together. How he kissed her hands afterward like they were magic. How she believed they were. And how now she was closing bigger deals alone. Not because of him, but because she refused to stay small under someone else's spotlight. She pulled her coat tighter and walked away, this time smiling. Back in his penthouse, Cole tried once more. He drafted an email. Subject, no title body, Alana. "You were right about everything. I let what we built become something I didn't even recognize. And I let you carry too much alone. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I broke something in you. I just wanted to say thank you for building with me, for believing when I didn't deserve it, for letting me see what loss really looks like. I hope your new world treats you with the grace I failed to." He hovered over send. Then, he saved it as a draft. He knew she didn't need his words. And maybe, just maybe, he didn't deserve her silence either. He stood up, poured out the untouched whiskey, and for the first time, turned. Off his phone, not to escape the noise, but because it didn't matter anymore. No alert would bring her back, and he had to sit with that, alone. Cole's inbox had changed. 3 months ago, it was filled with invites, updates, and admiration. CEOs wanted his advice. Real estate panels begged for his presence. Now, it was full of reschedules, damage assessments, and polite rejections. The ones that didn't reject? They danced around the elephant in every room. "We understand there's been a shift in public perception." It was never about the affair. It was about trust, and Alana's quiet, controlled exposure had shaken their belief in his judgment. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was reputational. His legal team advised silence. His PR team pushed for a redemption narrative. His assistant suggested donating to causes Alana supported. But none of it touched the problem, because the truth wasn't in optics. The problem was that people no longer believed he was who he said he was. And worse, neither did he. Alana, meanwhile, was in the middle of her team's biggest project yet. A reclaimed warehouse being converted into mixed-use women's housing. It had been Cole's failed bid years ago. Back then, zoning laws made it too slow. He gave up. She didn't. Now, her firm had it, and a full green light. She wore boots instead of heels as she walked the site with her team, sleeves rolled up, fingers smeared with dust from touching the raw brick. "This space right here," she said, pointing to an open room, "will be the kitchen. Big table, community seating. No one eats alone." One of the younger interns looked surprised. "No separate rooms?" "No," Alana said. "We're not designing boxes. We're rebuilding belonging." Her voice didn't shake. Her words didn't trail. She was in her element. Not because of revenge, because she had finally given herself permission to design for herself again. Later that night, she sat at her new desk, flipping through layout revisions. Her phone buzzed with a name she hadn't seen in weeks. Cole. She stared at it. Let it ring. Let it stop. No voicemail. Just a ping of silence. She returned to her layout, circled a storage area, and wrote in bold letters, "Space equal to safety." She'd learned that the hard way. Space wasn't distance. It was self-respect. Across the city, Cole deleted the call from his log. He knew what it meant. She wasn't angry. She was done. He poured a drink, then set it down untouched. He walked to the old storage closet, one Alana used to organize. Inside were boxes labeled in her handwriting. Spring, Christmas, Paris trip. He opened the last one. Inside was a faded map, some trinkets, a Polaroid. It was them, smiling on a balcony in Paris. He was holding her waist. She was laughing with her eyes shut. He sat down on the floor, phone in hand, staring at the image. Then he opened a blank note and wrote, "She didn't destroy me when she could have. She didn't curse me in front of the cameras. She gave me dignity I didn't deserve." Then he closed the note and sat in silence. The next morning, Alana received a flower delivery at her office. No note, just a small white bouquet. Orchids, her favorite. She called the florist. "No sender listed," the receptionist said. "Anonymous." She stared at them for a long time. Beautiful, elegant, controlled, just like her. She handed them to her assistant. Put them in the lobby. Let everyone enjoy them. At a speaking event 2 days later, Alana stood in front of a packed room of women. Young architects, builders, creatives. The topic, designing for dignity. When the host asked, "What was your turning point?" she paused, then said softly, "I realized I was building homes for other people to feel safe while I was living in one where I didn't." Murmurs, nods. One woman in the crowd wiped a tear. Alana continued, "You can love someone deeply and still choose yourself. You can walk away without being bitter. You can create peace without dragging pain behind you." She didn't mention Cole. She didn't need to. Her piece had already said enough. That night, she went home and stood by her window. She looked out, not at a man, not at a memory, but at a future still being written. And this time, every word belonged to her. The first time Alana met Cole, he was barefoot on concrete, measuring floor space with a bent ruler and sheer will. That memory returned now, unexpectedly, as she stood inside the new Rise Well project, this time not beside Cole but in full command. No more quiet support. No more being the woman behind the man. Now, she was the architect of her own vision, her own peace, her own future. The walls were still unpainted, wires hung from the ceilings, but the structure was solid, just like her. Across the city, Cole was unraveling in private. The board hadn't ousted him, but they weren't leaning on him either. "Let's bring in a CEO to take some pressure off," they said. "Temporary optics adjustment," they said. What they meant was, "You're still useful, but we don't trust you anymore." His ego could take the hit, his pride couldn't. That morning, he reviewed the damage from recent quarters, not just in numbers, in influence, in headlines, in silence. What haunted him most was not the exposure. It was the absence that followed it. No explosion, no court case, no media sit-downs, just Alana's silence and her success. Alana met with Karina Moss again, this time to finalize contract terms. Stanton Equity's team arrived early, but Alana made them wait. Not out of spite, but because she no longer rushed to accommodate anyone's expectations. When she entered the boardroom, she didn't apologize. "Let's begin," she said, sliding into her seat, black pen in hand. Karina reviewed the documents once more and smiled. "You've built something clean here, Alana." Alana nodded. "That was the goal. I have to say," Karina added, leaning back, "it's rare to see a woman walk out of a billion-dollar marriage and not flinch, not chase revenge, just rebuild." Alana paused. "I didn't leave to prove anything. I left because I couldn't breathe in a world that only saw me as decoration." Karina raised her glass. "To air. And the ones who dare to choose it." They clinked glasses and signed. That night, Alana stopped by the old Brooklyn apartment she and Cole once shared. It had been sold, renovated, and was now listed as a luxury micro-loft. But the building still held shadows. She didn't go inside. She stood across the street, looking up at the third-floor window that used to fog when they cooked pasta late at night. Her chest didn't tighten. She felt nothing. That's when she knew. She was free. Cole spent his evening in the Riston Tower conference room, empty, quiet, cold. He stared at the empty chair where Alana once sat, years ago, when she used to help him pitch ideas to investors, back when she believed in everything he said, even when he didn't. Now, her name was printed on the cover of every design magazine he picked up. Her quotes filled the spaces where his used to appear. One in particular struck him: "When your voice isn't heard at the table, build your own." Alana Norrin, Rise Well Interiors. He ran his hand across the magazine page like it was fragile. Then he folded it, placed it in his pocket, and left the room. He didn't know where he was going, only that every room without her felt like a monument to what he'd lost. At the Rise Well construction site, Alana checked blueprints with her team. The work was physical, gritty, loud, and she loved it. She wore a white hard hat, mud on her boots, and a clipboard tucked under her arm. As she reviewed a column measurement, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. But it buzzed again. Then came the text. "Cole, I saw the Brooklyn place today. I remember everything." She stared at it for a long while, then typed, "Memory doesn't equal presence. You remember it because I carried it." She hit send and went back to work. The text stayed unread on Cole's screen for hours. One sentence, Alana's sentence, had sliced deeper than any accusation ever could. "Memory doesn't equal presence. You remember it because I carried it." He didn't respond. What was there to say? He was a man who had built towers but couldn't protect the home that mattered. The woman who built alongside him had carried the weight while he chased applause. Now she was everywhere. Without him. Alana didn't dwell on the message. She finished her site inspection, checked out early, and stopped at a local deli near her new studio. She used to hate eating alone. Now, she preferred it. There was peace in choosing silence over strained conversation, power in knowing she didn't owe anyone her time. As she sipped her tea, she reviewed the upcoming presentation for Risewell's first press showcase. A journalist from Design and Depth had reached out, not for gossip, for insight. "People want to know how you're designing spaces differently," the editor wrote. "They want to understand why your work feels lived in before anyone even moves in." Alana agreed, not to prove herself, but to let her story serve others who were rebuilding too. Cole showed up at his mother's house the next day, unannounced. He hadn't been there in nearly a year. She opened the door slowly, scanning him from head to toe. "No driver?" she asked. "I needed to walk." She stepped aside and let him in. Her home was small, modest, filled with aging furniture and framed memories. He sank into the same couch he used to nap on after high school. His mother sat across from him, no words. Finally, he spoke. "She's never coming back, is she?" His mother took a sip of her tea before answering. "Would you?" If you were her. He lowered his eyes. She added gently, you always loved how Alana made you feel grounded, but you stopped being the man who made her feel seen. Cole rubbed his hands together, voice dry. I thought I was building for us. No, his mother said. You were building to be seen by strangers. Silence hung in the air. She placed a hand over his. Apologize if you must, but don't expect her to carry what she already set down. 2 days later, Cole wrote the letter. Not a message, not a text, a real letter. He wrote it by hand for the first time in years. No begging, no excuses, just truth. He folded it, sealed it, and left it with her studio assistant. Alana received it that evening. She didn't open it right away. She placed it on her desk, finished her to-do list, took a shower, made dinner. Then, after lighting a single candle, she sat and read it. Cole's letter. Alana, you gave me more grace than I deserved. Not just at the gala, but across the years. You carried my name, my silence, my shortcomings, and I repaid you with distance. I let someone else become my priority, thinking I could always return to the woman who never left. But you weren't a placeholder. You were the foundation, and I cracked it. You don't owe me words. I don't expect forgiveness, but if this letter gives you one less weight to hold, then it's worth writing. I miss the woman who used to challenge me, but I respect the woman who left. Cole. She didn't cry. She didn't call. She didn't save it. She folded the letter and placed it in her filing cabinet, under personal, then shut the drawer. That was enough. He had finally seen her, not as an accessory, not as a title, but as a whole person, and she didn't need to return for that recognition to matter. The following morning, Alana gave her first full presentation to a packed design summit. She wore a navy blazer, hair pulled back, posture straight. Her slideshow showed more than floor plans. It included women, children, stories, photos of laughter in finished kitchens, safe halls, shared gardens. When it was time for questions, someone stood and asked, "How do you balance beauty and strength in your spaces?" Alana answered without hesitation. "I used to think the strongest spaces were built with the best materials," she said. "But I've learned the strongest ones are built with truth." She let the room breathe before adding, "Design isn't just about walls. It's about what we choose to protect once they go up." Applause came slowly at first, then grew. Full, steady, respectful. Outside the venue, as cameras clicked and reporters gathered, one whispered to another, "She doesn't even raise her voice." But somehow, everyone listens. And that was the difference. Alana didn't need to be loud to be heard. Her presence did the speaking. Her work did the rest. 6 months passed. No headlines, no drama, no scandal, just progress. Alana's name was no longer trending because of a speech. It was trending because of what she built after. Risewell Interiors expanded to 3 new cities. Not massive moves, but intentional ones. Spaces for women-led non-profits, affordable housing projects, and community co-working hubs. Her studio became a space of its own energy, young women brainstorming over coffee, clients visiting without bodyguards, design boards filled with intention, not ego. Alana stopped measuring her success in square footage or press mentions. Now, she measured it by what stayed after the applause faded. Cole watched it all from afar. He didn't reach out again. He didn't send more flowers. He didn't beg for reconciliation. Instead, he watched her interviews. In one clip, she was asked, "What's your favorite design principle?" She answered, "Space is sacred." When the host asked, "Do you ever regret how public your walkaway was?" she replied without flinching, "I don't regret telling the truth. I regret waiting so long to say it." That part hit him harder than anything. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't cruel. She was clear. Cole had done what most men in power do. He assumed loyalty was permanent and forgiveness was automatic. But Alana had rewritten that rule. She was at the new project site in Philadelphia when she saw his name again. Not in a message, not on her phone, on a building banner. Reston Development, ex-Horizon partners, launching spring 2026. It didn't stop her, didn't stall her breath. She simply nodded. He was still building. So was she. They were both architects of different things now. That night, she stayed late in her temporary apartment, plans spread across. The dining table, tea half drunk, windows open to the spring air. She picked up a pencil and started sketching again. Not for work, for herself. A garden path, circular seating, hanging lights over a wooden pergola. It wasn't a commission. It wasn't for a client. It was for women who needed a place to exhale. A space she once wished existed when her heart was quiet but aching. She wrote at the top of the page, "The Soft Place Project," and below it, a tagline. Because peace should be designed too. Across the river, Cole stood on the rooftop of one of his towers. He wasn't celebrating. He was simply reflecting. His phone buzzed with messages, but none of them mattered. His empire hadn't crumbled, but it no longer felt alive either. He missed Alana, not for how she looked beside him at galas, not for the way she saved him from burnout with quiet meals and midnight shoulder rubs. He missed the version of himself he used to be when she still believed in him. The man who used to write ideas on napkins and tape them to their kitchen wall. The man who wanted to build something that mattered, not something that just made money. And he wondered, had he ever told her thank you? Truly, not as a placeholder, but as a partner. He didn't know the answer, and now he wasn't sure she'd care. Back in her studio, Alana hosted a small workshop for teen girls interested in design. They were shy at first, but by the second hour, they were drawing, measuring, laughing, and asking questions that mattered. How do I make sure I get paid what I'm worth? What do I do if my ideas get stolen? What if no one takes me seriously? Alana answered with the honesty she once needed. Charge for the hours they don't see. Document everything. And take yourself seriously first. They'll catch up. The room clapped after. But it was one girl in the corner who made her pause. She said, "You sound like someone who had to fight to be seen." Alana looked her in the eye and replied, "I did. And I won." After the session, as the room cleared out, Alana stood in the quiet. Her assistant brought her a folder, next month's schedule, some press kits and a small envelope. "No return name," she said. "Just dropped off by a courier." Alana opened it. Inside was a photo. Old. A Polaroid. She and Cole on the floor of their first apartment. Takeout containers, paint cans, his head on her lap. On the back, someone had written, "This was real." She stared at it for a long time, then folded it, placed it in her drawer, next to the contract for her next project. She had space in her story for memory, but not for detours. She still had more to build. Alana kept the Polaroid, but she didn't frame it. She didn't throw it away either. It sat in the drawer between business contracts and brand strategy notes, somewhere. Between memory and meaning, tucked neatly like a page in a finished chapter. She didn't owe it grief. She didn't owe it celebration. It was real, but it was done. Risewell's momentum kept building. The Philadelphia project was moving faster than projected, and a new offer had just landed, an education district redevelopment in Baltimore. If approved, it would be the firm's biggest project yet. Her team was ecstatic, but Alana took her time. She reviewed every page of the contract, visited the site quietly before scheduling any press calls, walked through empty hallways, chalkboards still stained with lessons, paint peeling in corners. It reminded her of the marriage, promising bones but neglected structure. When she stood in the teacher's lounge and touched the edge of a cracked table, a memory hit her. A night when Cole came home late. His tie loose, his eyes tired. He had said, "I'm doing all of this for us," and she had believed it. But now, she knew better. People who build with you don't make you beg to be included. That weekend, she spent the day off-grid. No emails, no calls, no client meetings. Just a long drive to the lakeside cabin she used to dream about when she was married. A space with no marble floors or designer scents. Just peace. She sat outside, sketchpad on her lap, the quiet broken only by birds and wind in the trees. She drew again. This time, not a house, not a kitchen, not a community center. She drew herself, not literally, but in lines, curves, and symmetry, a space that opened in the middle. No locked doors, only light. Cole spent the weekend in meetings he didn't care about. His team prepped another launch event, more spotlights, more guests, but it felt hollow. He gave his usual speeches, took the photos, shook the hands, but his mind was elsewhere, not on what he had, but on what he never understood until too late. At home, he stood before his fireplace, holding another envelope, not from Alana, from her firm, a formal rejection. He had submitted a quiet inquiry for Risewell to collaborate on a philanthropic urban renewal project. The answer was respectful, clear. "We are fully committed to our current projects and partnerships. We wish you success." Signed at the bottom in her handwriting, Alana Norin, founder and creative director. He didn't shred it, didn't curse. He read it twice, folded it once, and placed it in the same drawer where he'd kept their old Paris photo. That drawer used to be filled with things they planned. Now it was filled with proof of what he let go. On Monday, Alana returned to the studio early. Her assistant greeted her with a smile. "3 interviews requested you again. Want me to book or pass?" "Pass," she said without hesitation. She wasn't interested in more noise. Instead, she reviewed Baltimore's redesign sketch with her junior team. "We're not here to impress," she told them. "We're here to solve." She pointed to a layout change that created a private study nook between 2 classrooms. "Every child needs a corner where they don't have to ask to be safe." Her team nodded, quiet but locked in. And that was the difference. In Cole's world, people clapped out of habit. In hers, people listened because she made space for them to matter. That evening, she got one last text from a number she hadn't blocked. "Cole, this version of you, it's breathtaking." She read it, deleted it, and looked around her office. Soft lamplight, blueprints on the table, voices of women in the hallway. She smiled to herself. This version of her didn't need to be breathtaking. She just needed to be her. Have you ever rebuilt your peace in silence, without proving anything to anyone? Have you ever walked away not with revenge, but with clarity? Alana didn't scream. She didn't beg. She didn't chase. She chose herself, over comfort, over reputation, over apology. If you believe healing doesn't need an audience, if you've ever learned to breathe in your own space again, share your story in the comments. Like this video if Alana's journey reminds you that stillness can be strength. And subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, because we don't just tell stories. We tell the truth behind what it costs to rise. The Riston Tower stood tall on 57th and Lexington, wrapped in glass and arrogance. It was Cole's flagship project, the one that put him on the cover of business magazines and landed him on 30 under 30 lists. But now, standing at the top floor alone, he didn't see prestige. He saw a monument to everything he got wrong. The silence in the boardroom wasn't because of awe. It was distance, caution, uncertainty. His team still respected him, but they no longer trusted his instincts the way they once did. And part of him didn't blame them. He had let his most strategic partner walk out of his life and do better without him. Alana, meanwhile, was speaking at a private breakfast for women founders. It was intimate, no microphones, just shared space and real stories. One woman asked, "What do you do when someone powerful tries to reclaim you, not because they've changed, but because they realize you have?" Alana stirred her tea slowly before answering. "You remember who you were when they ignored you. And then you keep going." Soft nods followed. No applause, no hype. Just the knowing that comes from lived truth. Another woman leaned in. Did it hurt, being betrayed so publicly? Alana's eyes didn't flicker. It didn't hurt as much as realizing I betrayed myself for staying quiet for so long. The room fell still, and then, without fanfare, she added, "But silence doesn't make you weak. Sometimes it's the sound your power makes before it chooses a new direction. That same day, Cole sat in his car outside the Risewell studio. He didn't plan to go inside. He told himself he was nearby for a meeting. But he was parked there, watching. Alana exited the building just past 6 p.m., holding a rolled-up blueprint, a leather satchel over one shoulder. She wasn't in heels. She wasn't wearing makeup. She wasn't rushing. She looked peaceful. Someone laughed beside her, one of her junior designers. They said something he couldn't hear, and she smiled, a genuine one. Cole gripped the steering wheel tighter. That smile used to be his reward at the end of hard days. Now, it was someone else's inspiration. Alana stopped by the floral shop on her way home. It wasn't for anyone. She just liked having fresh lilies on her dining table. The woman behind the counter smiled. "Back again?" "Habit now," Alana said softly. She paid in cash, took her wrapped bouquet, and walked the 4 blocks to her apartment. The walk was short, but it reminded her of the nights she used to wait up, wondering where Cole was, what he was doing, who he was with. Now she walked alone, and her hands weren't empty anymore. Upstairs, she unwrapped the flowers, trimmed the stems, and placed them in a white ceramic vase. Then she sat with her sketch pad, adding detail to her soft place concept. She envisioned sun filtering through sheer curtains, books on open shelves, chairs that made you feel held, a place for women to breathe, not just live. At that same hour, Cole attended a charity function hosted by one of his investor friends. He shook hands, smiled for photos, gave a 10-minute talk about impact and legacy, but the words didn't land, not even with himself. When someone asked about his wife, he paused too long before saying, "We're not together anymore." The man nodded, awkward. "Ah, sorry." She was sharp. Cole forced a smile. "She still is." He excused himself soon after, went home, unbuttoned his shirt, stared at the skyline from his penthouse balcony, and for the first time, realized the city lights didn't shine nearly as bright without someone to come home to. The next morning, Alana received a handwritten envelope at the studio. No stamp, no return address, just her name, neatly printed. She didn't open it right away. She placed it on her desk beside today's client proposal, poured a glass of water, reviewed notes for her 2 p.m. site meeting, then picked it up. Inside was a simple note. A few lines, no signature. "I drove past your studio yesterday. I saw the way you smiled, like nothing was missing. And I realized that I am." Alana folded it and set it down. There were no threats, no pleas, only recognition. But she didn't reply. She didn't need to. The version of herself who might have seen that as closure was gone. Now she didn't process pain through reaction. She processed it through creation. At lunch, her team gathered around render boards. The Baltimore project was underway, and new client input had come in. "We'll need to move the entrance," Yvette said. "The south side floods during heavy rain." Alana nodded. "Let's pull it in 3 meters. Add a protective canopy, something architectural, not just practical. We could install drainage that doubles as a design feature," another designer offered. "Yes," Alana said, eyes bright. "Make the problem part of the beauty." That line lingered in her head after the meeting. Make the problem part of the beauty. Wasn't that what she had done with her own life? She didn't erase the heartbreak. She redesigned herself around it. And now, her life had flow. Cole met with his media team later that day. They pitched a new campaign to reposition the brand: resilience, vision, legacy. He nodded through the slide deck, but he wasn't truly listening. What was legacy when the most valuable person in your past no longer spoke your name? One of the execs asked, "Should we include a segment about your rebuilding story?" Cole looked up, cold. "Rebuilding from what?" The man went silent. Cole exhaled. "Never mind, scrap the legacy angle." Because the truth was, he hadn't rebuilt anything. He had covered up cracks with branding. But Alana had built something lasting. That night, he walked the High Line alone. It used to be their thinking spot. When they were broke and dreaming, They'd come here and share fries, sit on the benches and plan 5-year goals on napkins. Now, the skyline looked different, brighter, bigger, but less meaningful. He passed a mural that read, "Love doesn't fail." People stopped choosing it. He stopped walking. It wasn't painted in spray or ink. It was carved into the wall, permanent. He didn't take a photo. He didn't need to. The words had already sunk in. Across the city, Alana sat in her reading chair with her legs curled beneath her. She wasn't scrolling. She wasn't researching. She was journaling. Under the soft glow of a lamp, she wrote, "I used to think healing meant waiting until I stopped hurting. Now I know healing is what happens when I move, even with the ache. Especially with the ache." She closed the notebook and looked around. No skyscrapers outside her window. No cameras flashing. Just stillness. And not the lonely kind. The full kind. Back at Riston Group, Cole returned to his office to find a document sitting on his desk. It was a final investor withdrawal notice. One of his long-time clients had moved all funding to a new firm. The name at the top, Alana Norin, Risewell Interiors. He stared at it for a long time. There was no message, no statement, no insult, just redirection, and it stung worse than any betrayal. Because she hadn't stolen anything. She had simply built something worth choosing. Without noise. Without him. That weekend, Risewell hosted an open house at their latest site. Families walked through model homes. Mothers cried seeing bedrooms they could finally afford. Teen girls asked questions about blueprints. Little boys ran through halls yelling, "This is my room!" Alana stood at the center of it all, clipboard in hand, smile easy, hands folded loosely in front of her. She didn't speak much. She didn't need to. She had spoken loudest through what she made real. And Cole? He wasn't invited. Cole no longer kept a driver. Not because he couldn't afford one. He still had wealth, reputation and clients. But he didn't want anyone watching him unravel. He drove himself now. Long stretches through the city. Past buildings with his name etched in stone. Past spaces Alana once helped design. Back when she was still standing beside him, not walking away. He never imagined she'd become a competitor. He never imagined she'd win. But that's what she had done. Not through power plays, not through drama. She just outgrew him. Quietly. Entirely. And now, clients who used to return his calls called her. Investors spoke about new energy, grounded leadership, purpose over Polish. And when they said her name, they smiled in ways they never did for him. He had built empires. But Alana had built trust. At Risewell, Alana's team finalized plans for the Baltimore build. Yvette placed 2 reports in front of her, one from zoning, one from the city council's planning committee. "Both greenlit," she said, grinning. "We're clear to go vertical." Alana nodded slowly. "Then we rise." Her words carried weight. They always had. But now, people followed them like truth. She walked through the office, passing renderings pinned to corkboards, stacks of fabric swatches, scale models on tables. This was no longer a firm. It was a movement. People came here not just to design, but to believe in themselves again. She had unintentionally become what Cole used to be. A builder of vision, a holder of hope. That evening, she hosted a private salon with 4 women, leaders, designers, CEOs. No cameras, no interviews, just conversation. The topic was simple: what did you survive that shaped your leadership? When it was Alana's turn, she leaned back in her chair and took a breath. "I survived the silence of being erased in plain sight," she said. "I survived the days when I gave everything and still felt like furniture, present but unseen. But most of all," she continued, "I survived forgetting myself and relearning who I was." No one spoke for a moment. Then one of the women, older, once divorced from a venture partner, reached out and touched her hand. "You didn't survive it," she said. "You redesigned it." Cole met with his COO the following morning. "You need to see this," the man said, sliding a proposal across the desk. It was a competitor's bid on a luxury green space development in Soho. He flipped through the pages casually until he saw the design mock-ups. The lines, the notes, the style. He paused. It was her work. Her signature sat at the bottom. Alana Norin, lead designer, Risewell Interiors. He closed the folder slowly. "Are we bidding on the same project?" he asked. "Yes," the CEO said carefully. "And they're ahead." Cole's throat tightened. She wasn't playing in a different lane anymore. She was in his, and beating him. Alana reviewed the final pitch the next day. Her team had crafted it with intention: functional luxury, human-centered design, environmental balance. She paused over the site rendering. A rooftop garden, community seating, space for single mothers to hold workshops, soft lighting designed to calm. Then she added one note in the margin: no ego, only usefulness. That was her brand now. No headlines, no noise, no show, just impact. Back at Riston Group, Cole stared at a blank screen in his office. He had nothing to say. No pitch to rewrite, no spin to give. His edge was slipping, and he felt it. Not because he lacked resources, but because he had ignored the one asset that couldn't be bought: integrity. At sunset, Alana walked through the finished wing of her Philadelphia project. The walls were painted. The lights dimmed softly. A mother stood in one of the rooms, holding her daughter. "She's never had her own space before," the woman whispered. Alana smiled gently. "Now she does." The little girl ran to the window, pressing her hand to the glass. "This is mine," she said. Alana blinked fast, because yes, it was hers. And so was the life Alana had finally built. Cole sat alone in the glass-walled boardroom, lights off, skyline glowing behind him. Outside, the city moved with its usual speed. Horns, sirens, flashing signs. But inside, time slowed. The pitch he'd once counted on, his signature edge, was losing ground. His competitor, his ex-wife. But it wasn't the fact that Alana was succeeding that hurt most. It was that she was succeeding without him, not as a reaction, not out of revenge, but because she was always meant to. He was only now realizing what he had muted in her for years. She had outgrown his shadow, and now she was leading in the light. At Risewell, Yvette entered Alana's office with a gentle knock. "You should see this." She handed Alana a glossy brochure, the updated proposal from the Soho development. It included side-by-side comparisons of bids from all firms. Riston Group's pitch was polished, impressive, but Risewell's was being called the heart-forward concept in early reports. The community board loved it. Sustainability analysts praised it, and two investors had quietly stated they'd prefer to align with the team that puts people before headlines. Alana read through the analysis. She wasn't smiling. She was focused. "Keep refining the access routes," she told Yvette, "and triple-check the light study. I don't want any corners left in the dark, literally or symbolically." Yvette nodded, pausing for a second. "He's trying to keep up, isn't he?" Alana looked up. "Yes," she said softly, "but I'm not racing him." She tapped the papers. "I'm building for the ones who never had a seat." That night, Cole found himself scrolling through Risewell's press archive. Photos of ribbon cuttings, community murals, women-led panels. Alana wasn't center stage in all of them. In most, she was in the background, hands clasped, head turned, letting others shine. She hadn't become powerful by taking the mic. She had become powerful by holding the room. And in that quiet strength, Cole saw everything he had lost. Not just her, but the better version of himself that only existed when he was near her truth. At a conference 2 days later, Risewell was awarded Emerging Firm of the Year. The applause was long, but Alana's speech was short. "We don't measure success by square feet," she said. "We measure it by dignity restored." She left the stage with no media spin, no flashy exit, just a quiet wave. Backstage, she checked her phone. No missed calls, no messages. Good. She wasn't expecting any. Cole left the gala early. He hadn't won anything, but he stayed to see who had. He watched from the crowd as Alana walked off stage, her team surrounding her with smiles and soft high fives. She hadn't looked his way once. And for the first time, he didn't want her to. Because this win? It wasn't about him. It never was. The next morning, Cole met with his team and made a rare decision. "I want to restructure," he said. "Smaller projects, more focus, less noise." The room fell quiet. One exec asked, "Is this about Risewell beating us on the Soho bid?" Cole shook his head. "This is about remembering what building was supposed to feel like." And for the first time in years, he meant it. Meanwhile, Alana walked through an empty studio at 9 p.m. Lights dimmed, heels off, music low. She paused at the corkboard near her desk. There was a quote pinned at the top from one of the girls at her workshop last month. "Miss Alana, I didn't know women could build buildings and not just live in them." Alana smiled, then turned off the lights. The building on East Broad was quiet but not lifeless. It had been abandoned for years, a relic of a failed retail boom with shattered glass doors and faded signage. But in Alana's eyes, it was potential wrapped in stillness. She stepped through the front entry with Yvette and 2 project leads behind her. "Community wants a multi-use space," Yvette said. "After-school programs, health resources, flexible classrooms." Alana nodded slowly, her eyes scanning the structure. "Strip it down to the bones," she said. "Let's design from inside out. Form should serve function." They took measurements, documented flaws, and noted where sun hit most often. No ego, no flex, just function that cared. At Riston Group, Cole sat through a presentation he didn't lead. The COO outlined a new pitch strategy: smaller budgets, urban density focus, partnering with civic boards. It was the right direction. He knew it, but it wasn't his anymore. His voice still held weight, but not command. He used to walk into rooms and shift the energy. Now, rooms moved without him. And when people referenced Alana's work, it wasn't with envy. It was with respect. He thought of the first time she showed him how to make a small space feel big. "Let it breathe," she said once. Not every corner needs to prove itself. Now, that advice haunted him, because every corner of his life felt like it was trying too hard. Alana returned to her studio late that afternoon. Mail waited on her desk, a handwritten letter among the envelopes. No name. But the writing was familiar. She opened it carefully. "You're doing what we used to dream about, only better. And I see now, you were always the one who understood how to hold the soul of a space. I built for scale. You built for people. I hope they know how lucky they are to have you." There was no signature, but she knew who it was from. She folded it and tucked it into her desk. Not because it meant reconciliation, but because it meant he finally understood. And that was enough. The Baltimore groundbreaking was set for the end of the month. Alana stood in front of the nearly cleared lot with city officials, press, her team, and several community advocates. No one expected grand speeches, but the mayor invited her to say something. She stepped up, brushed wind-blown strands from her face, and kept it short. "I was once part of a vision where my name was never on the walls, only on the thank you cards. And I stayed quiet because I thought being needed was the same as being respected." A pause. The crowd held still. "It's not. But this space will teach young women the difference." Light applause followed. She stepped back. No headlines that twisted her words. No cameras that chased drama. Just applause that felt earned. Later that evening, Cole stood outside the old building in Brooklyn, the one where they lived when they started. He ran his hand along the wall where their buzzer used to be. The tenants had changed. The place was renovated, but the memory of her laugh echoing down the hallway still lived there. He closed his eyes. He didn't want her back. He just wished he had loved her better when he had the chance. At home, Alana opened her windows and let the air in. She played music, not loud, but full. Then she sat down, pen in hand, and wrote her own quote to pin above her new project board. "Let your spaces speak for the version of you that never got to scream." And that was how she built now. not for applause, but for the girl she used to be, the one who waited too long to be seen. The studio buzzed with a quiet rhythm the next morning, muffled conversations, printers running, soft music in the background. It was the kind of hum that didn't demand attention. It just flowed. Alana moved between workstations, reviewing mood boards and updated models for a transitional housing wing. One of her junior designers asked, "Do we have time to fit in one more revision?" Alana glanced at the clock. "We do, because we're not rushing excellence." The young woman smiled and returned to her desk. This was what Alana had always wanted. Not control, but culture. Not just a seat at the table, but the power to shape the table itself. Later that day, a reporter from an architecture journal came for a scheduled feature. She wasn't there for gossip. She wanted to explore Risewell's design philosophy, why their spaces felt lived in before opening. "You said something at the summit," the reporter recalled. "Design for dignity. What does that mean in real time?" Alana leaned back in her chair. "It means the person matters more than the finish. The layout shouldn't impress, it should understand." She stood, walking over to the studio wall where dozens of photos were pinned. "These are the faces of the people who live in our spaces," she said. Their backs carried stories. "Our job is to design spaces that won't add more weight," the reporter wrote quietly. Then asked, "Do you think the personal shaped your professional?" Alana smiled. "Doesn't it always?" Meanwhile, Cole reviewed a revised pitch for an old warehouse redesign in Jersey City. He stared at the mock-ups for 15 minutes before finally pushing them aside. "None of this feels right," he said. The design team waited. "Strip it down. Think use, not flash. Think what Alana would build." The room went still. He didn't flinch when he said it, because it was no longer about holding on to pride. It was about acknowledging what worked, and Risewell's influence was reshaping even the people who never gave her credit before. Alana returned home that evening with paint samples and new flooring textures in her tote bag. She was testing materials for a youth shelter. Budget was tight, but she refused to compromise quality. She laid the samples out on her dining table, studied them in silence, then pulled out her phone and snapped a picture. No post, no caption. Just a record of what care looked like behind the scenes. As she tidied up, a voice message came in from one of her former interns, now working in DC. "Alana, I just landed a role because I quoted something you told me. Design with compassion, not competition." They said that line made them pause. Alana closed her eyes for a moment, then smiled. That was the ripple. She wasn't building just buildings. She was building people. Cole didn't go to his office the next day. He drove instead. No GPS. No destination. Just the city in motion. He stopped at the small bookstore in Soho that Alana used to love. They once spent a rainy afternoon there, tucked between the shelves, sipping hot chocolate and reading out loud from old architecture books. He walked in now, alone, and wandered through the aisles. He found the same book she once gifted him, Architecture of Emotion. He bought it again, but this time he read it with new eyes. At the studio, Alana pinned her final draft of the Baltimore render to the main board. Her team gathered around. No one spoke for a moment. The space they designed held light, softness, strength. It had lines that welcomed, not intimidated. It had corners for retreat and rooms for rising. And right at the center, a sunlit common room. Yvette whispered, "It looks like it's already healing people." Alana stepped back. "Because it's not about us," she said. "It's about what remains after we leave." That night, Cole wrote one final message in his notes app. He didn't send it, but he wrote it anyway. "I used to believe I had all the tools, but you had the blueprint. You weren't just the woman beside the builder. You were the foundation." Then he locked the phone and sat in the dark, not in grief, but in understanding. Sometimes, losing someone wasn't punishment. It was the lesson you never saw coming, until it was too late to fix. Autumn arrived like a hush over the city. Leaves curled golden at the edges. The air cooled with intent, and in a small cafe near the Lower East Side, Alana sat with a client whose voice trembled as she spoke. He left, After 8 years, just packed and said nothing. Alana listened quietly. "I feel like I was standing still while he sprinted past me," the woman said. "Now I don't know who I am without him." Alana stirred her tea once, then twice. "I used to think I had to keep up," she said. "Then I realized I wasn't slow. I was steady." The woman blinked, as if the words unlocked something. "I don't want to hate him," she added softly. "You don't need to," Alana replied. "You just need to stop letting him decide your pace." They didn't speak for a while after that. Some truths didn't need follow-up. Across the city, Cole sat in a boardroom he once ruled. Now, he was just a presence, presentable, informed, but no longer the core. One of the senior partners presented a new acquisition strategy, full of buzzwords and projections. Cole looked out the window. Rain traced down the glass in slow, steady patterns. It reminded him of a night long ago, when Alana leaned against the same window in their old apartment, telling him their space felt too cold. "I can't feel us here anymore," she had said. He'd shrugged it off. Now, he felt the absence of us everywhere. Back at Risewell, Yvette rushed into Alana's office, excited. "We landed it," she said. "The foundation just approved full funding for the community wing." Alana looked up slowly. All of it. Every cent. A slow breath left her chest. Relief. Gratitude. Years ago, she would have called Cole first, told him the good news, waited for his "I'm proud of you." Now, she closed her laptop and whispered, "We did that." No validation needed, no audience, just impact. That evening, she visited the Baltimore site again. This time, she walked alone. She stepped over cables, between scaffolding, through open spaces that would soon become lives. In the far corner of the atrium, she stopped and looked up at the beam structure. Strong, balanced, clean. Her voice echoed slightly as she said to no one, "I'm still here, not as a wife, not as a reaction, but as a woman who stayed standing." Cole, at home, pulled out the old blueprint sketches they once drew on brown paper. They were faded now, some torn at the corners. He smoothed them out on the table. In one, Alana had scribbled a note in red ink. "This wall needs light. Don't forget the people living in it." He ran his fingers over that line. She had always seen what he didn't, and he had spent years adding walls where she was trying to add windows. At a Risewell planning meeting the next day, a young architect asked Alana, "Do you ever think about what you walked away from?" Alana didn't hesitate. "Every time I walk into what I've built now." The room went still. Then Yvette added quietly, "And you never looked back." Alana turned toward her, a quiet smile forming. "I did look back," she said. "Once, to make sure I wasn't still there." Alana stood in front of the mirror the night before the Baltimore ribbon-to-cutting ceremony. No gown, no press-ready smile, just a simple blazer and black trousers. She applied lip balm, pulled her hair into a soft bun, and studied the woman staring back. This face had seen boardrooms, betrayal, foundation drafts, tear-streaked pillows, and quiet victories. It didn't carry bitterness, it carried depth. Behind her, the studio was still alive. Yvette was triple-checking logistics. The interns prepped press kits. Contractors coordinated final lighting cues. But in the quiet of the restroom mirror, Alana was with herself. Not the face she showed the world. The face she fought for. Cole received the invite in his inbox that same night. Not from her. Not directly. From the City Development Board. Ribbon-cutting ceremony. Risewell Interior's ex-city of Baltimore. He stared at it for a long while. He wouldn't attend. But he needed to see it. To feel it. The official Risewell logo in bold. Alana's name, right under the city's seal. Not Mrs., not wife of, not founder's partner, just Alana Norrin, director, lead designer. She had earned every letter. The next day, the sun came up clean over Baltimore. A modest crowd gathered under the white tent. Local officials, media, families. Alana's team, donors, a few city planners who used to write her off. Everyone stood facing the glass-wrapped community center, the heart of the project. It reflected the sky above and the people in front. When Alana stepped up to speak, there were no lights in her face, no stage beneath her heels, just a podium, a mic, and truth. She looked out at the crowd, then at the building. "I used to think power looked like being seen," she began. "But now I know power is when others feel seen because of what you've built." She let the moment hang. This isn't about architecture. It's about giving women and children a place where they're not treated like guests in their own lives. No applause. Not yet. Silence first. The heavy kind. Then hands clapped. Then hearts followed. It wasn't thunder. It was respect. Cole watched the footage hours later, alone from his office. He turned the volume low, not out of avoidance, but reverence. He watched her speak. Measured. Calm. Present. No trace of him in her voice. Not even a ghost. And that was the moment he finally believed it. She had truly, completely moved on. Alana left the ceremony quietly. No after-parties, no selfies, no performative "look what we did" content. She returned to her hotel room, kicked off her shoes, and sat in silence. Her phone buzzed once. A text from an unknown number. It only said, "You did it. The right way." She read it, deleted it, then opened her journal and wrote, "Closure isn't when they apologize, it's when you stop needing it." At Rise Well the following week, the team celebrated softly. Pizza, jazz playing low, no champagne, just sparkling water and gratitude. Yvette raised a toast with a paper cup to Alana, for not just changing the skyline, but the story. Alana clinked cups with her, smiling. Her eyes scanned the room, new faces, old dreams, and a sense of belonging that didn't require permission. She wasn't the woman who once stood behind the man. She was the woman who had learned to stand for herself. And now, others were standing because she did. The new office was smaller, not by accident, by choice. Alana didn't want floor-to-ceiling glass or rotating views of the Manhattan skyline. She didn't need a mahogany desk or private elevator anymore. Those things once made her feel important. Now, she only wanted things that made her feel present. The new space had exposed brick, sunlight that spilled in naturally, and a team that called her Alana, not Mom. The air wasn't heavy with fear or hierarchy. It smelled like lavender, oil, and ambition. Young women walked confidently past her door with blueprint tubes and coffee mugs, like they belonged there. Because they did. She didn't name the new firm after herself. She named it Rise Well, because it wasn't about her. It was about how women could rise and still feel well in the process. No more rising through survival. No more rising while falling apart inside. This time, it would be different. And somehow, that made it real. She was sketching the layout for a community housing lobby when the knock came. 3 light taps, soft, familiar. Her eyes flicked up slowly. Duncan stood at the door, holding a paper bag. She blinked. "You're an hour early." He stepped in. "You're still not eating lunch unless someone brings it. So, I brought it." He placed the bag down on the side table and sat on the carpet, legs stretched out. She stared at him for a beat, then let out a tired laugh. "You really don't like chairs, do you? Not when I've spent all morning in meetings pretending to care about office lighting temperature." She turned back to her sketch pad, pen in hand. "You're dramatic. You're welcome." He didn't press her to talk, didn't ask questions. He simply sat there, close enough for warmth, far enough for comfort, and for some reason, it made her shoulders fall. Like she didn't have to hold up everything anymore. 2 hours passed before either of them said anything meaningful. She looked down at her paper, then at him. "You know, everyone expected me to take Cole back, or at least give a long speech about healing." Duncan met her gaze. "You didn't owe them either." She nodded. "But I think part of me wanted to owe someone. That would have been easier than forgiving myself for staying so long." He didn't say, "You did what you had to do." He didn't say, "But you're stronger now." He said, "It's hard to walk away from dreams you built together, even when you're the only one still dreaming." And that made her close her eyes for a moment. He got it. Without decorating the pain, later that week, she sat in the Risewell conference room reviewing fabric samples when she heard someone mention the name Creed. She froze. Not Dahlia, but Dahlia's cousin, a newly appointed executive at a partnering real estate firm. Life had a sense of humor. Still, Alana kept her expression even. She asked one of her project leads to continue the meeting while she stepped into her office. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. But she did journal that night. Healing doesn't mean the ghosts leave. It means they stop controlling the room. Cole called once that week. She didn't pick up. He emailed too. She didn't open it. It wasn't about anger anymore. It was about energy, and she was no longer interested in giving her light to people who left her in the dark. On a quiet Friday morning, Alana arrived early to the office. She brewed her tea, turned on her desk lamp, took a deep breath. She pulled out her sketchpad, the same one from years ago, the one with the first drafts of Cole's dream on it. She ripped out the front page, not with violence, with peace. Then she drew something new, the outline of a woman, not standing behind anyone, not looking towards someone, but centered, feet planted, shoulders back, and eyes forward. The final letter came on a Saturday, not an email, not a phone call. A handwritten envelope delivered to the Risewell reception desk. It was addressed simply to Alana, no last name, no return address. She knew the handwriting. For a moment, she stared at the envelope without touching it. She thought about handing it back, about telling her assistant to shred it, but she didn't. She took it to her office, closed the door, and laid it on her desk. Then she brewed tea, slowly, as if grounding herself with every motion. When the water steamed and the cup rested on the coaster, she finally opened the envelope. Inside was a single page. His words were neat, clean, controlled. "Alana, you once told me that building trust was like laying brick. It had to be, done with care, and once cracked, it didn't just snap back into place. I thought I could win you back with the same ambition I used to win the world. But I finally understand, what I broke can't be fixed by showing up. It has to be lived out, over time, in silence, even if you never see it. I don't expect your forgiveness. I don't expect anything. But I hope that somewhere, your life now feels like yours again. You were never background. You were the foundation, and I ruined that. I wish you strength, and softness, and new love that knows how to stay. Cole." She read it once, then again. She didn't cry. She didn't feel angry. What she felt was distance, like reading the words of a person from another life. She folded the letter, placed it in the drawer, not as a keepsake, but as closure. That night, Alana stood in her apartment, lights dimmed, barefoot on the rug she once bought during their first trip to Italy. It had faded now, but it was still soft. She looked around her home, not grand, but peaceful. She glanced at her reflection in the window, hair loose, sweater slipping off one shoulder, tired eyes, but clear ones. She looked like herself, maybe for the first time in years. Sunday morning, she walked to the cafe on 6th Street, the one she used to visit before life became about appearances. Duncan was already there, same corner table, 2 cups of coffee waiting. He looked up, smiled, and didn't ask if she'd read the letter. He didn't need to. He could see the answer in the way she pulled out her chair and exhaled slowly. They talked about other things, about Risewell's next project, about Duncan's niece getting into a science magnet program, about the way autumn was folding into the city, and at some point, his hand rested on hers, not possessive, not demanding, just there, like he had no intention of rushing her, and she didn't pull away. Weeks later, Risewell was invited to a development summit. Alana was one of the keynote panelists. It was a big deal. The first time she'd step on a stage since that night. She wore a tailored navy jumpsuit, minimal makeup, hair up, confident. calm. Backstage, she looked into the mirror, then at the seats slowly filling beyond the curtains, and she smiled. Not because she needed to prove anything, but because she finally understood something. The old Alana had survived the betrayal. But this Alana? She had risen. She stepped on stage with no fear in her chest, and when the moderator asked, "What inspired Rise Well?" she said, "The moment I stopped trying to be someone's reason to build and became the reason I stood, was the moment I started again." If you've ever been the one behind the dream, if your love helped someone rise and they forgot you in the process, let this story remind you you're not invisible. You were never too much. You were never not enough. And when you choose yourself again, it's not a failure. It's freedom. Comment your favorite line below. Subscribe to Mr. Charles Stories, where we don't just write happy endings. We write true beginnings.